In the early days of movies, before color and special effects, there were three ways to create a monster: costume, makeup, and the most effective, lighting. Lighting influences how we feel about the rooms we live in and the people we see. And it begins with where light comes from, its direction. She looks friendly, but change the direction of the light and your feelings might change as well. A single direct light from below, called an uplight, casts strong shadows, and shadows are scary. Danger can lurk in darkness. Direct light from one direction can make a monster, but it can also add drama to a surface. Here, the light is directly in front of the fabric. Now, the light comes from an angle. The angle creates shadows that help you feel the texture of the fabric. With light from directly in front, the surface is clear but flat. But light from an angle creates shadows that highlight texture. That's good to reveal texture in a fabric, but not so good for applying makeup. A single light above or next to a mirror creates facial shadows that won't exist in a well-lighted room. Using makeup to cover a shadow caused by lighting doesn't make sense. That's why professional makeup mirrors use light sources that provide light from multiple directions to reveal what light from a single direction might hide in shadows. Here is a vase lit by a single light straight on. It's clear but flat, uninteresting. Now move the light at an angle, like this, and the vase is more separated from the background. We see more shape or dimension. Professional photographers rarely use a single light straight on. A flash bulb is a direct light from one direction. That explains why so many photos taken with a built-in flash give harsh, unpleasant results. Many of the principles that work for photography and video apply also to lighting our living spaces. In general, rooms with outside light coming from only one direction are not as pleasing as those with light from at least two directions. The rooms you find most pleasant typically have natural light from at least two directions. Attention to the direction of light helps create a well-lit interior. But we don't light our rooms using spotlights. We would find that harsh and annoying. Light has differing qualities. Daylight itself changes in quality. Morning light varies from the pale yellow of a new day. A sunset adds orange to the palette of light. The crisp light from a bright blue sky differs from the softer light of a cloudy day. And moisture or fog in the air softens and diffuses light, creating its own unique mood. Windows on north or east walls emit more light with a cool bluish cast. Artists often prefer this light since it emits few orange and yellow wavelengths to distort colors. A southern or western exposure brings sunlight later in the day with its warm orange tones. Artificial light sources also differ in quality. The once standard incandescent light bulb changed surprisingly little from Thomas Edison's first efforts 130 years ago. We call this an incandescent bulb because light is produced when electric current passes through a thin filament of tungsten, making it hot enough to glow. The filament doesn't burn up because the bulb is filled with inert gases such as argon or nitrogen. The light produced is a glow from burning. Some of the tungsten evaporates at the high temperature. That's why some bulbs slowly blacken over time. A standard household bulb is white. We often think of its light as plain or white. In fact, its light is a glow with strong yellows and reds. We consider that safe and comfortable, perhaps because it resembles the light from a fire, our ancestors' first source of controlled light. We don't light rooms using only uncoated incandescent bulbs. The quality of light is uncomfortable and uncontrolled. Enter diffusion and reflecting. Most light bulbs are coated to soften glare. The whiteness is a coating of silica inside the glass that diffuses the light and softens harsh shadows and glare. We already saw that light from a single direction can distort a face. By changing the spotlight for a softer, more filtered light source, the effect is lessened. Here is our vase again in direct light. Photographers often filter lights to make them less focused. This diffused light is less likely to produce glare and visual hotspots. Diffusion explains why photos taken on cloudy days are often better than those taken in full sunlight. The clouds diffuse the light, much like the photographer's filter, the coating inside a light bulb, or window curtains. But even a coated bulb is usually not enough. Lampshades further diffuse and control light. This paper lantern produces a soft light that we prefer to a bare bulb. Most household lighting is passed through some kind of filter, often in the form of a lampshade, to cut glare and harshness. Another way to soften light is to reflect it. All rooms have some bounced or indirect lighting. Light from lamps and windows bounces off walls and ceilings to provide general room lighting. Light colors and shiny surfaces reflect light well. That's one reason most ceilings are white. In contrast, a room with dark walls and floors reflects less. It seems to eat up the light. This room will require more artificial light than a room with white walls. This indirect light source is called cove lighting. The light source is hidden, so almost all the visible light is reflected, bounced off the ceiling. A fixture called a torchère directs almost all its light at the ceiling, giving the room indirect or reflected light. The quality of light is changed by the color of surfaces from which it is reflected. A person standing next to a blue wall will have a bluish cast to her skin from the light that bounces off the wall. Next to a red wall, her face picks up some of the wall's red color. The color of walls and floors influences the quality of light in a room. Homes with rich wood walls and furniture are most often lit by a warm white light that gives the wood a warm glow. But houses with white or neutral color furnishings, marble and chrome for example, look best in neutral white or daylight colors. We've seen that the direction and quality of light are key to interior lighting. A third key quality is brightness or intensity. The overall lighting level in a room is called ambient lighting. We associate high levels of ambient light with work and activity. A kitchen has a high ambient light level, as do offices, schools, and retail stores. Fast food restaurants feature a high level of ambient light. But slow food restaurants offer far less. Lower light levels suggest peace and rest. People draw closer together in dim light, and they talk more quietly in reduced lighting. One study found that the noise levels in a school hallway dropped 10 decibels when 2/3 of the overhead fluorescent lights were turned off. How can you judge the intensity or brightness of a bulb? Most people simply look at the wattage number, 100 watts or 60 watts, for example. But a watt measures how much electricity a lamp draws. Sometimes that means more light. Other times it means only a higher electric bill. To judge brightness, pay attention to the rating in lumens. This bulb is rated at 1180 lumens. These are both 100-watt bulbs, but the bulb on the left has a higher lumen rating, it gives a bit more light. To conserve electricity, learn how much light output in lumens you need and choose the bulb with the lowest wattage. In addition to ambient light, a room needs task lighting, which illuminates space for a specific task, reading, cooking, or eating, for example. A light over a workbench has to produce enough lumens to ensure safety. A fluorescent lamp at the kitchen counter is a task light. Lighting for reading or conversation is the most common task lighting. Consider this seating arrangement. Go ahead, take a seat. There. When you do, the floor lamp puts you on the spot. Directing the light downward with a shade helps. There are other task lighting flaws here. A person seated across from you is backlit. You can't see that person's face. That's a basic error in lighting for conversation. Reading is a task that demands clear lighting. This lamp is poorly placed behind the chair. The shadows it creates makes reading difficult. Raise the light to eliminate the shadow. A lamp behind the reader has to be higher than one to the side. A reading lamp to the side of a chair should place the bottom of the shade near eye level. The average seated eye level is 38 to 42 inches off the floor. If a table lamp is used for both reading and mood or ambient lighting, a three-way bulb or dimmer switch gives it the needed flexibility. A third type of lighting in rooms is accent lighting, used to direct attention to small areas or objects. These downlights call attention to or accent the paintings. Lights built into bookcases or display units accent the contents. A small light illuminates a painting or beautiful object. A well-designed room balances ambient, task, and accent lighting. A room with only one level of light intensity lacks visual interest. People will find it cold or dull. Think of lighting for a home as creating layers of light. You probably call this a light bulb. Lighting experts use the term lamp since so many light sources are not bulb-shaped. About 88% of the electricity poured into a standard incandescent bulb turns into heat. You could think of a standard light bulb as a full-time heater that produces a little light on the side. Fluorescent lamps use only about a third as much electricity as incandescent lamps and last over 10 times longer. A fluorescent lamp is coated with phosphors and filled with vaporized mercury and argon. Electric current activates the gases, so they fluoresce to produce light. Their energy edge led Australia and Canada to effectively ban incandescent lamps. Other countries are drawing up similar laws. Your grandchildren might have to go to a science museum to see the kind of light bulbs you grew up with. For many people, fluorescent lighting means bluish institutional light that's acceptable for the garage or basement, but not the living room. But today's compact fluorescent lamps, CFLs, are much improved. This compact fluorescent and this 100-watt bulb both produce about 1600 lumens. The energy needed for the standard bulb is 100 watts, but the CFL requires only about 23 watts to produce nearly the same level of light. The fluorescent bulb costs a few dollars more, but will last 10 to 13 times longer. Replacing a single standard 100-watt bulb with a CFL will save about $12 a year if the lamp is used 5 hours a day and electricity costs 10 cents per kilowatt hour. If every U.S. household would switch one standard bulb to a CFL, the atmosphere would be saved greenhouse gas emissions equivalent to taking 800,000 cars off the road. This assumes the electricity is produced in a coal-fired power plant, and about half the U.S.'s electricity is. Compact fluorescents for household use are sold in a variety of light qualities, from daylight to soft white. They can be used any place a standard bulb can. Some fluorescent bulbs have a color rendering index, or CRI number. The closer the CRI is to 100, the better it reveals true colors. Most lamps change color in subtle ways. Standard incandescents are weak at showing blues. If you sort socks in the light from a standard bulb, you will have a hard time distinguishing among navy blue, royal blue, and black. The fabrics here are lit by a cool white fluorescent. Here are the same fabrics, now lit by a warm fluorescent that is closer to sunlight than the cool white. A standard incandescent bulb changes colors again. When you shop for upholstered furniture or rugs, you have to take samples home to see them as they will look in your own house. The colors you see in the furniture showroom will probably not be the same you see at home. This computer simulation from General Electric shows how changing only the light bulb changes color. Each of these displays is lit by a fluorescent lamp with a slightly different color index. Some lamps are sold as full-spectrum lights that match natural daylight. They sometimes claim to be healthier and more natural, but proof for this belief is slight. We enjoy a variety of light qualities, and daylight itself varies in quality throughout the day. Daylight bulbs typically have a blue coating to shift the color away from the glowing oranges. A halogen lamp is made of quartz, is very small, and quite bright. Halogen lamps burn very hot. They are more energy efficient than standard bulbs, but less than fluorescents. Halogen lamps give a light closer to the quality of sunlight than cool fluorescents, but whiter than standard light bulbs. They show more accurate colors than many light bulbs. LEDs, short for light-emitting diodes, might someday be a practical replacement for many standard lamps. They waste very little energy as heat, can burn for 10 years non-stop, and are little larger than a pencil eraser. Today, you see them most in digital clocks, remote controls, traffic lights, or jumbo television screens. LEDs are slowly finding a place in household lighting. They can be tuned to produce different qualities of light. In fact, the Mona Lisa painting hanging in the Louvre is lit by LEDs. Fiber optics moves light through cables and is currently more decorative than practical, but might find a place in more houses in the future. Light-emitting capacitors, LECs, are sheets of plastic with an inside layer of phosphors that shine when hit with alternating current. They can be programmed to flash on contact, as in this drum set covered with LECs. Balancing ambient, task, and accent lighting requires knowledge of light fixtures. Table lamps are one of the most common lighting fixtures. Some prefer the fixture itself be attractive, since lamps spend most of their lives turned off. But making a pole with a light bulb and a shade attractive is difficult. Other designers believe light sources are best when invisible. They see table and floor lamps as visual nuisances. Built-in lighting is best planned when a house is constructed, but can be added later. Older houses have only 1 or 2 built-in light fixtures, while newer houses often have dozens. Another common fixture is the hanging lamp, called a pendant. A dish or globe around the bulb diffuses the light. Restaurants often used focused pendants to create pools of light for diners. Chandeliers give a formal dining room or entryway sparkle and elegance. The first chandeliers were candle holders. And today's electrified versions still used flame-shaped bulbs as a reminder of the chandelier's pre-electric past. A wall sconce is today's version of one of humans' first lighting fixtures, a torch on the wall. Fixtures called wall washers direct wide spans of light along the side of a wall. They wash the wall with light. This creates the illusion of more space, since dark walls make a room feel smaller. Track lighting is popular in contemporary designs. Light fixtures are attached to an electrified track. Recessed and track lighting often use flood lamps or reflectors like these. A reflector bulb has a silvery coating on the sides, so the light is directed downward and not wasted to the side. The end is coated or textured to soften and diffuse the light. A spotlight creates just that, a spot of light. This is an example of the light cast by a spotlight from a track. It creates an instant focal point in a room at night. Here is the same fixture fitted with a flood lamp. The light spills over or floods a wider area. Fixtures mounted flush in ceilings are called recessed lamps. These lamps cast all their light down. Their advantage is their invisibility. Their disadvantage is their fixed location. Some recessed lights contain an eyeball that can swivel to direct the light. The interior of the lamp holder, called a baffle, influences the light. White reflects more light down. Black with ridges cuts glare. With so many choices and fixtures, consulting a lighting expert is a smart idea when planning interior lighting. Lighting should be an early design choice, not left to last. Lighting brings the room to life. Its lack spoils the best plans. Without light, there is no interior to design.